Hans is out in Croatia, absolutely wrecking guys right now. This is the tournament of peace, but there is nothing peaceful about what he's doing on the board. This is a 2650 Ivan Cheparinov, a seasoned Bulgarian grandmaster, absolutely destroyed in 25 moves with the white pieces. This is ridiculous. So the English opening is played. Hans goes knight f6. We get knight c3, pawn e5, a Sicilian with colours reversed. These knights now develop. This is known as the four knights variation, because here we can see, just kidding, my channel's not that boring. Now we get g3, the bishop is preparing to fianchetto, bishop b4, natural developing move, the king's soon going to castle, sometimes the bishop comes here instead, and now white is having none of the shattered pawn structure, decides to spring forward with that knight immediately, and we don't see takes. You don't want to encourage this pawn here, kick your well-placed knight on c6, so Hans goes e4 instead. We don't see this knight, bishop captured. That tension is left, and instead white moves this one here, but where does it go? It can't hop forward. If you come to g5, it's a massive problem because the queen is x-raying it, so knight takes here, queen comes here, it's good for black. You don't want to retreat. I mean, sure, Magnus would do it to troll with guys online, but by process of elimination, this is a classical game. The knight hops to the edge, small advantage still for white, but that is a horrible piece. Now, you can't quite trap it, you know, it's still got squares, but keep your eye on it. So we get castles now played. Pawn a3, kicks back this bishop, and now if you keep going with b4, okay, it's playable, but the bishop finds a home here, picks up a tempo on the rook, and black is fine, sorry. So bishop g2, now played, but of course you've taken away a retreat square for that knight. And so d6 is played, you now take away the final square, and by the way, white can't win a pawn here, excuse me, can't find my voice today, because if you capture with check, queen comes in, then try and win a pawn, well, you're getting embarrassed on the f2 square. So the king just castles. Now Niemann goes rook e8 to cover the e4 pawn. And now here the computer wants e3 as the top move, allowing the g5 trap stuff, but then going b4 and all sorts of craziness, right? They tiptoe around the tactics. But d3 is played, way more natural move, because after Niemann captures, queen recaptures, you've freed up this square for the knight to retreat to. But you are now walking straight into knight e5 with tempo, the queen retreats, c6 puts a question to that well-placed knight, and now this next move is weird. A 2650 just goes very wrong. You should just take here. Queen recaptures, and then obviously you play the very natural rook a2. What else could be more natural when you made a little home for it? But we see the knight now retreating, and look at this. The pawn drops off the board. What is this all about? Well, knight a4 is the planned follow-up. You open the queen on this knight, and hit this bishop, prepare to shatter the structure. But after bishop e6, covering the knight, white goes for too much here. You should just take or b3 to drive back the knight. Play this kind of position, you know, something like this. Bring the rook, bishop to b2 soon. You haven't quite got enough compensation for the pawn, but you've got a little bit of play. A bishop pair if you can retain it. But coming back here, the immediate rook d1 was played, looking to take the bishop, using the fact that the pawn is pinned, but there is a nasty tactic in the air, which Niemann finds. He crashes through to this king on g1. Well done if you spotted the move. He plays the brilliancy of bishop takes on f2. It's move 15. White is dead in the next 10 moves. So the king recaptures, of course, and knight g4 check is the follow-up move. Now you don't want to go king to f3. You run into queen f6 check. This knight's coming to e5, the bishop to d5, the rook's opened up, you just get killed. So the king steps backwards, not to f1. You're then running into this royal fork, or do you call it a family fork even? You know, you're going to get check, even after bishop takes, bishop takes, the other knight takes, the queen's dropping off. So king f1 impossible, king g1 is the preferred move of the engine, But b5 is a problem. It's a recurring theme. And the idea is, if the knight retreats, there's queen b6 check. And you get this classic stuff of the smothered mate, very common tactical motif. So this is why you just cannot let the queen hit b6. And if you step here, by the way, you just get mated in one, of course. This is the problem. So coming back, we don't see king g1. King e1 was played instead. Although, sorry, king g1 the preferred, because now after b5, the computer finds some amazing defenses with rook d4. It's complicated. It still has Niemann a little bit better. Okay, but not played. King e1 on the board. b5 now comes anyway. Now the knight does not retreat. Again, if it comes back, queen b6, and this is really problematic. Same themes in the air, and if you ever go e3, well, good luck pushing that pawn. So we get rook d4 played, trying to interrupt a load of this stuff on the dark squares, plus pressure these knights. And after this knight now hits e3, best move, picking up a tempo on the queen, pressuring the bishop, although it is defended for the moment. We now get bishop takes on e3, knight recaptures, and white doesn't play the best move. Queen d2 would be optimal. Now after the knight takes, you can recapture, take on a4, yes, so black gets the material back, but okay, you're only a pawn down here, your king is still exposed, black is better, struggling to stay in the game, but it was better than what we saw, because in the game, queen c3 was played, but now your knight has got no retreat squares. So Niemann doesn't even move this very well placed knight and allow white to recapture here, but plays bishop d5, an excellent move. So you're of course threatening to win a piece on g2, and if white takes, very natural, actually the favourite move of the engine, will pawn recaptures, and look at this one, stuck out on the edge. No retreat squares. If you move forward, you get taken. So queen d3, that one drops, and here black's doing great. So the bishop didn't take on d5, bishop e4 played, but now Niemann simply captures. White takes the knight, this was the big idea, but after the bishop retreats, opening up the line of the rook, queen d2, now the knight drops off the board, and white just capitulates. You know, this knight is still stuck out on a limb. You can't go knight f3, for example, or bishop takes using the pin of the pawn. So why white didn't do, say, king f2 here, preparing knight f3, you know, I'm really not sure. Very strange play, because rook takes on a4, blitzed out, I guess playing against Niemann's clock here. Now we see rook e5, taking away the f5 square from that forward knight hop. Therefore, g5, big threat, and white just doesn't respond to it. You know, again, why not king f2? Okay, maybe you run into this stuff, but then there's rook d4. Game does go on, but rook d4 immediately played, but g5 and resignation. The knight is completely trapped. It has literally no hops where it won't get taken. Sure, you can come here, but bishop takes, pawn is pinned. So Hans Niemann just absolutely destroying, guys, nearly a 3,000 tournament performance rating so far. I hope you enjoyed this one. Sorry about the voice this evening. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.